In this video, we are creating an AI knowledge agent that is trained on all of your company documentation, procedures, and general info to be able to give employees a really convenient way to access all the information and prompt it through a Slack channel. So if you are a business owner, this is extremely time saving. You probably get questions from your employees all the time, and you want to say, hey, check the SOP in this Google Drive, but the time it takes for them to find it, the complexity of organizing the files the right way, it's just a pain in the ass. So we're going to create a Slack channel where anybody can go in there and ask any question about the documentation that you have this thing trained on, and it can give a really clear and concise answer without hallucinating and making stuff up like ChatGPT would normally do. So I have one thing in this database for right now. It's a standard operating procedure, and I'm going to just do an example query and show you what this does and what it doesn't do. So I'm going to ask it, can you give me an outline of the standard operating procedure? So I'll say, yeah, can you give me an outline on the SOP for onboarding? So this is going to reference this document in this database and give me all of this information. So pretty concise, pretty clear. And I wanted an outline as well. So it's not just spitting back the entire document at me. It's giving me exactly what I'm asking for. So it's going to spit back stuff that's very accurate. It's not going to hallucinate and make stuff up. As you can see, number 1 is initial client consultation. 1.1 is a meeting. 1.2 is questions. The whole thing is pretty accurate. So what it does not do is normal ChatGPT tasks, right? So if I ask it, tell me about Queens, just a random question, it's going to say, I don't know, because it's not trained on that information. So it's going to give you really specific information about a database, and you can really choose what you want this to be trained on. So now I'm going to show you how to build this whole thing. We're going to have a process for getting files into this special kind of database called a vector database. And then also we're going to have a Slack automation here where if I ask a question in this channel, it's going to go through and find the relevant documents it needs to give me a response and then respond in Slack. All right, so step 1, we're going to use n8n for this. It's kind of like Zapier, kind of like Make, but you can build some really good AI agents without doing a whole lot of coding, really any coding. So I'm in my n8n account. I'm going to create a new workflow. And now the first step, we're going to build the process for getting new documents actually uploaded, called insert/uploaded to this database. So I'm going to do Google Drive. You could do whatever you want to if you want to have folders somewhere else, but I'm going to do Google Drive because everyone pretty much uses that. So I'm going to do Google Drive here. What I'll do is on changes involving a specific folder. So we're going to have our own folder. I'm going to call mine a database pretty much. And this won't be the entire file store of my entire company, right? I want to be specific on what I actually give this in this use case. So what I'll do is I'm going to have to create a credential here. This is the most annoying part because Google API is kind of hard to get around, but everything else is correct. The pull time is 1 minute. Every single minute it'll watch for new files coming in. And by the way, this will only count as an execution if it does find a file. It's not going to count an execution every single minute, right? So this is correct. Changes involving a specific folder, and then we're going to choose the folder in Drive. So the first thing I'll do is make a new credential here. And it has some pretty documentation as well in n8n. If you get stuck anywhere, this is kind of the step-by-step process. So we're going to follow this process and we're going to get our own credentials. Cool, so the easiest way to do this is to open up these docs, and then I'm going to go in. We're going to create a Google Cloud account. That's the first thing. So I'm going to use another account that I've made for testing. So I have the account done. Now what I'll do is I'll go into this. I'll create a project. I'll just open these links up. Cool, so I'm going to log in. 1 second. All right, so we've logged into Google Cloud with this account. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project for the sake of the video. So I'll just keep it whatever. I'll just do test at the end so I know which one it is. Create. So this will create the project over here. I'll watch for this to be done. I'll do select project here. Cool, now what I'll do is I'm going to type in here Drive API. So I'll do this. We're going to enable this API. Cool. Okay. So next thing I'll do is create credentials right here. I get this issue every time I make a video, I swear. Okay, cool. I refreshed it. So I'm going to select the API of Google Drive. I'll use user data. Click next. App name, I can just put like whatever, n8n2. I'll use the same email I have in here. I'll do that again here. Save and continue. So now for scopes, I'm just going to add all the scopes. I'm pretty lazy. I'll just update it. Cool. So I'll save and continue there. Now for this OAuth client ID, we're going to use web application. Just name is, default is whatever. This thing we have to enter in, authorize redirect URLs, and it's provided to us in n8n. So I'll copy this. I'll just click it and copy it. And then I'm going to put it in here. So I'll add URL, create it. Perfect. And then it's going to give me client ID, but I need more than that. I'll click done. And then I'll go to credentials. I can open this up. And now I'll see the client secret and the client ID. So I'm going to copy this client ID into this automation. Client ID right here. And then let's get the other one. Client secret as well. Go back in, paste it, and then I can sign in with Google. I'll use the same account I did this whole thing in, so I'll do this .org account. Cool, it's connected, it's working, no problem. So what I'll do now is I'm going to make a special folder that I want to upload stuff into. I'm not going to use the whole Google Drive account because that might be a little bit reckless. So I'm in Drive here. I'm going to make a new folder. And I'll just call this whatever. I can call it database 1. So I have this new folder, and we're going to make this so that whenever I add something into the folder, it's going to add it to the actual vector database as well. So for folder, I'm going to use what I just did from list database 1. We're going to watch for any file created. Yeah, that's going to be it. So this kind of counts for anything that's moved into the folder as well. So I'll add something in there. Let me just add in, I'll just make something real quick. I like using this tool. It's a nice little tool to make stuff look good. I'll do a draft. I say, give me an SOP document for setting up Meta Ads account. If you haven't tried this tool before, it's really cool. I'm not affiliated with in any way, but really cool for making like visuals. So I'll show you that real quick. Might as well. If I do this. Just kind of sidetracking here, but look at that. Pretty cool. So anyways, I've got this document here. I'm going to go ahead and share it. I'll download the PDF. And if you're making this for yourself, just start moving stuff into this folder. Or just move one thing in to test it, right? Move one thing in. I'll upload this file now. Let's go with, I think it's this one, yeah. Cool, so I've got one thing in there now. I'm going to go ahead and test this to make sure it's working. I'll fetch this event. And as you can see, it's giving us all of the same details from that file. So let me see where that name is. Yeah, beautiful. So standard operating procedures for a Meta Ads account. So it got the file correctly. The next thing we'll do is we're going to download this. So I'm going to go to Drive again. What I'll do is click download file. And I have the same credential in there. Already done. I'll do it again. We're going to do file operation download. And then I'm going to use not from list, I'm going to go by ID here. So that's dynamically changing if there's a new file added, not just this test one. So for the ID, we're going to go in and find the file ID. I think that's going to be, let's see, spaces, the ID right here, this JSON ID. We're going to test this step. And there we go. The file is properly configured in there. Next thing I'll do is we're going to add a pinecone database store. So I'll just search up pinecone. And this is a company that will do vector databases pretty much for free under certain usage. So we're going to go ahead and add documents to the vector store. Now, same thing with this. I have to make an account with this and create a new credential. So let's do that in step 2. All right, so we're going to make a new credential for this. We're going to get an API key from them as well. So I'm going to search up the company. I'll just search pinecone database. I'll click on this link here. I'll sign up. Let me just make a new account so I'm with you on the same page. Cool, I'll do with Google. Do right here. All right, cool. So it's going to give us the API key right away. I'll just copy this and paste it into our new credential here. So right there. I'll save it. As you can see, it's connected successfully, but I have nothing in my index yet. So we're going to create a new index. We'll create an index, and I'll just name this test2. Okay. Configuration, we're going to just use this text embedding small, serverless, AWS, and then Virginia. These are all the ones I'm going to use. I'll create the index now, and we're pretty much done with this. So that was pretty easy. We'll go back over into our workflow, and now we should be able to select the new database. So let me just close it out for a sec, see if it comes back up. As you can see, yeah, test2, we just made this index, and that's the only step. So let me just test this step and make sure that this document comes through. Oh, we got an issue. It's because we have to add a few things. So the embedding agent, we're going to use OpenAI. We're going to use the same model, text embedding 3 small, and then the document, we're going to do default data loader. We're going to use binary and load all the input data, and this is fine as default as well. So what this is basically doing is this is an embeddings agent. It's going to take all the documents and kind of compress them into a way that this can, store it correctly. And then we're going to have a default data loader to load the data when we have to retrieve it. We're going to use this recursive character text splitter. Honestly, I'm not familiar with what this really means, but I know this is how you do it. Chunk size, I'll just set this pretty high. If you're running a lot of really big documents, like let's say it's 500 pages in a PDF, I might even have this higher at 5,000. What this does is it's going to kind of cut down the document into manageable chunks, and then it's going to retrieve those chunks when we need to access it later. So if you have this set at 10, for example, you're going to have one document split into a ton of different little pieces, rather have it as 3,000 so we get the whole thing in one usually. And then chunk overlap, this is going to be overlapping pieces so we don't actually miss information when we're splitting it up. So you don't have to worry too much about what that actually means to get this to work. So this whole thing should be done. I can just save this. I'll turn this to active. Hold on a sec. What's the issue? Test the step again. Cool. Yeah. So it's giving us that document. It's now in the database. If I go back in, I refresh this, you'll see we have something in there in a second, hopefully. Yeah, it might take some time to update. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So this split the document. I gave it into a couple different chunks, I think. And then, it's just storing it in numbers. So I'm not going to go into any more depth on that. We've got the documents going into the database correctly. So next step is going to be to access these documents. You can use whatever you want to. If you want to use Telegram, if you want to use even voice, you can do that. I'm going to use Slack for this example. So what we're going to do is make a new trigger in this. And I'm going to just type in Slack, see if that comes up. Yep. So Slack, and this is going to be, for me, I'm going to do this on messages in a certain channel. So I'll do on new message, post it to channel, and then I'm going to make a new credential as well and come right back. Okay, cool. Let's make this new Slack credential here. I'll do create new credential. I'm going to get an access token from Slack. So I'll open this document. This is very helpful. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Slack API apps page. So if you don't already have an account in Slack, make an account. And now we get to this Your Apps section. We can click on Create New App, and we'll do it from scratch. This will be, let's just do Assistant 5, okay? Let me make a new workspace and come right back. All right, cool. So I'm going to choose this bold slate workspace here. I'll do Create App. And so there's a bunch of different things on this menu. We only have to do a few things though. So what we're going to do first is we're going to go to the event subscriptions. I'll turn this on, and then I'm going to go back into n8n. Actually, we need the access token. Let me do that first. I'll do OAuth and permissions. We're going to add some scopes here as to what it's actually allowed to do. There's a lot of them in here, so we're going to add the most important ones. If I go back to this documentation, you'll see that they tell us which ones to actually include. Let me go in and find where they have that. Oh, this is the wrong document. What am I doing? Okay. Permissions. Okay, yeah, so scopes right here. If you scroll down this document, you'll see the scopes they recommend that you include. So there's quite a few of them in here. I'm going to pause and just come back when I've added them all in. And just to be clear, I'm going to add them into this scopes under bot token scopes. We're in OAuth and permissions. I'm going to start adding those in. Okay, so this should be everything. You can pause the video and add your own in right there. Let me go into the OAuth tokens now. We're going to install this to the workspace. I'll click allow. Cool, so this gives me an OAuth token right there, this bot user OAuth token. We're going to give this, so I'm going to paste it in, and then I'll click save. And as you can see, it worked properly. Now what I'll do is I'm going to make a new channel to have this assistant operate in. So I have this new channel called SOP Assistant 2. As you can see from the last step, Assistant 5 is a new app in the workspace. So I'm going to make sure that I have them added into the chat. And then I'll just add a channel. Cool. So what I'll do is from list, I'm going to do SOP Assistant 2. And I have to go back in and give this a webhook, right? So there's two different webhooks. One's for testing, which is like using test step, and one is for actual production. When you've finished testing, everything's working, you can switch it over to this one. So what we'll do for that is we're going to go back into the Slack API section. I'm going to copy this just by clicking on it, and then I'll go to, let's see, event subscriptions. So I'll do enable events. I'll put this URL in here, and it's probably going to give me an error saying, you didn't pass the challenge parameter, whatever. So just to fix that, just click on test step, have this thing running, and then retry it. It'll verify. So I'll subscribe to bot events. We're going to do, it's going to be channel. I think it's channel read and then group read. Let me just make sure. Hold on. I think that's it. So yeah, message channels and then message groups. We're going to add both of those. So I'll save changes, and now I'm going to have to reinstall the app. No worries, I'll click allow. Perfect, so let's just test this thing out and see if it's working. I'm going to put in a message there. I'll do hello, and then what I'll do is I'll test this step. Let me try it again. Perfect, so as you can see, it got the message coming in. Text is hello. So that's the hardest part of this whole thing, honestly, is using Slack API. So let's just check back in. Where are we? I've got this separate thing. This is going to be to access the database in Slack. So now what I'll do is I'm going to add, let's see, advanced AI. We're going to use a question and answer chain. This is going to be question and answers from the database. So I'm going to do this now. I'm going to take from the previous node. I'm going to do define below instead. And we're going to just take this text and copy it. So I'm going to go right here. Let's see, text is hello. We're going to add that text right in there. And then I'm going to add the same stuff, model. I'm going to use OpenAI. GPT-4o mini is fine. And then I'm going to do retriever. And we're going to do vector store retriever. Limit is 4, that's fine. Pinecone vector store from the previous step. And we're going to use the same index that we used when we first built this. Everything else should be fine. And then I'm going to do the embedding model. We're going to use OpenAI again. We're going to use the same text embedding 3 small. And then the final thing is going to be to respond in Slack. But let's just test the other things first. I'll save this and then I'll test this. Cool. So it's going to return an item. It's going to say, how can I assist you today? Because we said hello, right? Let's just test it again. I'll do test workflow. And I'll say, I think we added something about SOP, right? What did we add in here already? SOP for Meta Ads account. Say, let's go back over and see if this is working. Cool, so it's successfully done. No response yet because we haven't actually added the response step. But as you can see, it's giving us all of the information that we asked for. So next step is going to be to get these to populate into Slack as a response. We're going to go into message to channel. So where is message to channel? Send a message, and then send message to channel, and we'll do the same channel, SOP Assistant 2. The message text is going to just be this text right there. Boom. So yeah, we're all good. Let's get out of here, save it again, and then we're going to do another test before we change this over to production in Slack. So I'll do test workflow, and then I'll say, let's just do the same thing over again, right? So yeah, as you can see, it retrieved the data so fast. It's using OpenAI to kind of turn that raw data into something that can tell us back in Slack. And as you can see, we got this information coming right from that document that we first created right here, right? So let's just see prerequisites, ensure you have a valid Facebook account. yeah, so it's giving us the same thing, but just kind of summarized to make it easier. The final step here is we're going to change the Slack trigger webhook URL. We're going to change this into production URL. I'm going to copy this. We're going to go back into that same events subscriptions in our API, and we're going to change this. And we're going to copy the new URL in there. I'll do save changes. As you can see, yeah, challenge parameters failed. To complete that, or to fix that, we're going to turn our workflow on. And then we'll go back in and retry it, and it should work. So save changes. And now let's test it out for real. Let me say, what is the step after creating ad accounts? Let's just see what it does with that. The step after the ad account is set to payment. Oh, as you can see, we're getting a ton of messages now because this thing is looping through. I had the same issue when I first built this. To fix this, I'm going to stop the workflow. Okay, I'll turn it off. What we have to do is add a little parameter into the Slack trigger as an option to ignore any messages that are coming from this Slack bot, because if we don't, it's going to keep, triggering because of a new event or a new message in the channel. So to fix this, it's pretty easy. I'm going to go and find the user ID of assistant 5. So I'm going to click in to copy member ID right there. I'm going to paste this ID as an expression. Boom, right there. So it's going to ignore any messages coming from the Slack bot, so it's not going into a self-perpetuating cycle. So that works fine now. I'll do save. I'll turn this thing back onto active, and I'll just have it do the same thing. So last time it kept giving us responses to itself. We don't want that. Let's just try it again here, make sure it works. So the step after creating an ad account is to do payment information. You go to payment settings, add a payment method, and enter the required payment details. Let's just check on that, make sure that's the same. So payment settings, payment method, and payment details. Yeah, it's the same exact thing. So it's not looping anymore, which is great. This thing is fully completed. Now all we have to do is really just keep adding in more documents into this thing. So if I do a test run and I say, tell me about best cats, obviously this won't know it. So it's going to say, I don't know. But if I create a document about best cats, and I say best cats document. So I'll wait for this to be done. Cool. So now I can just, I guess we're not done. Okay. I'll do share. I'll do the PDF. Cool. So now this, if I add this in, it should add it to the database, no problem. I'll do file upload, and then the best cats. So I can check on this workflow, make sure it actually got that document in. So as you can see, let's just wait a second, because this will pull every single minute, so it might not be ready yet. As you can see, new thing just came in, and it added the document to the database, no problem. So let's just ask it again. Tell me about best cats. The world wants to know. Perfect. So as you can see, we're getting all of the same information that we just gave it on the best cats. So yeah, it works just like that. You add new documents into this Drive folder, and they're automatically entered in, and now your employees can reference the information really easily. So if you were going to go out and sell this to a business owner, I would start off by saying, how much time do employees spend looking through and trying to find important information hidden away in your Google Drive account, right? Probably at least 10 hours a week with all the employees. So if you save them, 10 hours a week for all the employees, that would be a huge time savings. You could sell this for any amount that you felt was fair. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I know it was a long one, but I have all the blueprints as well of this whole n8n workflow. If you want to just copy this and paste it right in without having to do all this from scratch, go ahead and join the free school group down below. It's completely free. You can find more resources just like this one and new builds that I'm doing. So like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.